Hi, Will. It's a very big welcome to you. It's lovely to speak to you for this quite auspicious occasion. Um, of course, you're well known in our communities because you are a prolific writer about psychosynthesis. And so, certainly, many of our students and graduates will have read your book. Welcome.
Thank you, Kim. I think it's quite exciting for me to be here because I'm fairly sure this is the last book on psychosynthesis I will write, although I don't know that for sure. Um, and my whole journey with psychosynthesis, which is the title of the book, started at the Trust many years ago. So great. Thank you for
Yes.
welcoming me here.
So it's a nice circle coming back to the Ouroboros beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very good indeed.
Mhm. So, can you tell us a little bit about the book, about the focus of the book, and why you thought a little bit more about why you thought it was important to publish now?
Well, there are two important to publish now. I think there are two answers to that. One is I had the material available. I've been running a distance course for more than 20 years, and I retired and stopped working on that, and all the material was there. And it had been, as the students had worked through it, they'd been giving me feedback, and I'd been working on it all that time and upgrading it and changing it and making it work better, hopefully. And so finally all the students were finished and it was like, well, what am I going to do with this material? So for me, it was like, oh, well, it's another book. I can turn this into a book. But I think now also there have been recently a lot more books being produced on psychosynthesis, and I just think the more the better, really. And I personally have done this. I've written my previous book, The Magic of Psychosynthesis, was very much about psychosynthesis, but it was applying psychosynthesis to a particular area. This book, The Journey of Psychosynthesis, is very much, it's specifically psychosynthesis. It's not about how you apply psychosynthesis to anything other than oneself. So The Journey of Psychosynthesis, the title, I just said a little bit about my journey of psychosynthesis, and there's an introduction in the book that says some of that. Um, but it's very much about the reader's journey of psychosynthesis. It's a very practical book. The subheading is Lessons in Self-Awareness and Making Your Best Choices. And I think that, I don't know what it would mean to people who don't know any psychosynthesis, but if you're already into psychosynthesis, I think you can see that the awareness and making choices is right there at the heart of psychosynthesis with the self-identification exercise. So the idea of the course in the book is, yes, it could be useful to people who are into psychosynthesis. I've had a couple of pre-publication reviews from people that who are long-time practitioners, and they say, "Oh, there's a lot in here I didn't even know." So I think potentially, but I've written the book more for people who either have heard about psychosynthesis and would like to do it, but haven't got the ability or the geographical position or money or whatever it is to do long courses. They want to apply it in their lives for themselves. Um, but also, hopefully, for some people, it's word psychosynthesis is irrelevant. It's just that it's another way, a tried and tested way of um, improving their lives, really. I guess that's the bottom line.
I think what's really great is it makes psychosynthesis quite accessible. You know, I had the honor of reading it before publication,
Yeah.
and I found that simply by reading it, I was placed in a position where I automatically reflected on how psychosynthesis works in my life. And um, this piece that you mentioned about your mentoring program, you know, I guess that's another piece of what makes your book accessible is that this is a program that you've run well and people have really benefited from. So Um,
Yeah, and I think yes, I think that's right, and I think what I can't speak for other people, but I know when I buy books, sometimes I'll kind of devour it. I read through it really quickly, and I love that book. You know, it's a great book, whatever it is. And some books I take more slowly, and some books I only go so far. And sometimes it's because I don't really like this book, but often it's because that's what I've got from the book. I've got what I've needed from it, and I know this from running the course all the years that. I actually don't know the percentages, but say half the people or so who did the course finished it. But the half people who didn't finish the course are like what I'm saying myself with books. They get to a certain point, they get to the point where they've got what they want from it. And I found that with, you know, sometimes students would drop off and I would, of course, check out with them what's happening. And there would be some students would say, well, this just isn't for me. But the majority of students who didn't actually even get to the end would say, well, I did such and such, or wow, such and such happened for me. And very exciting to see that process happening, really. So, so it's a book, I would say, to read from front to end slowly, but not to worry if you don't get to the end of it either. It's a book. I mean, this is a big claim for my book, but it's a book you could live with and work with for a long time. As some people, the longest student who graduated was a Belgian man who just under 8 years took to finish the course. Most people who were kind of keenly working on it all the time would take about a year, year and a half, something like that.
mhm. So it really is the continued um, way that psychosynthesis works, that it is about from the inside, you
Yeah,
know, understanding ourselves first and foremost.
absolutely. And it's one of those, you know, if, for example, I was wanting to be a great athlete, I would have to practice something a lot. And after, I don't know what people say these days, 10,000 hours or something, I might be a real expert at that, or playing the piano or whatever it is. But along the way, there's the joy of learning to play the piano, or the joy of engaging yourself in the athletic process you're trying to be good at. And I think psychosynthesis offers something like that as well. It's not a quick fix. There's a quick something happens, and once you get that something, the rest of it is up to you.
Mm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think it fits into my next question, and that is, you've lived with psychosynthesis for a long time, many years. Well, if you can let us know a little bit about what psychosynthesis, the journey of psychosynthesis, has meant for you in your life.
Well, I think the most important thing probably goes back to when I first started psychosynthesis, and I'd spent a lot of my time prior. I was in my late-ish 20s, and I'd spent a lot of my time doing um, transpersonal spiritual practices, occult practices, all kinds of stuff for apparently growing myself and my spiritual and soulful connections and all those kind of things. But I was left somewhat disconnected from the world in some way. I noticed when I was meeting other people practicing the same kind of things as me, um, we'd do great stuff together, but on a interpersonal level, there wouldn't be a lot going on. And so when I found psychosynthesis and started working with it, the first thing was it gave me, well, I think bottom line is it really brought out the sense of service. What's the point of my working on myself unless I've got something that enables me to put that work out into the world in some way, which is, of course, where my books eventually have come out from that. But even before that, um, you know, in the psychosynthesis training, learning to be a guide, learning to be a counselor, a psychotherapist, a mentor, a coach, all those possibilities are there in psychosynthesis. But even more than that, I think whatever jobs or work you're involved in, it's applicable, and that core I'm talking about is knowing that there's something inside you that isn't just your reactions and responses to the world as it is around you now, or to your childhood development, or what your wishes and plans might be, or different parts of you have wishes and plans for the future. There's a center, there's a self, there's something, the core of the psychosynthesis work seems to be the self-identification, where you're saying, I have a body and I have thoughts and I have feelings, I have different roles I play in life. There's all kinds of things that I'm doing in life, and there's a me that's doing them. It's not just a scattershot of activity. There's a self. And I think psychosynthesis, for me, really embedded that self so deeply, that actually, I was saying this slightly tongue-in-cheek, but during the training, I used to tell people, my friends, I used to say, well, one of the great things is Roberto Assagioli has taught me how to cook. And of course, Roberto didn't teach me how to cook, but what psychosynthesis gave me was a perspective on cooking. Rather than getting caught up in, oh, I'm putting all these different ingredients together and, oh, what am I going to do? I could be the cook with the ingredients. And I think, in a way, that's a metaphor for something bigger about psychosynthesis, that very deep, kind of mysterious, but deeply known sense of self. So if I'm we were talking before the interview, and Kim, you suggested that perhaps we could talk what it means for me as a 75-year-old. Well, I think it means the same now. It's like I have this autoimmune condition, and the only thing I can do about that is manage it. And I would 100% say I manage it better because of psychosynthesis, because of this sense of self I'm talking about.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. I think that's an important note to complete on.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to
Of
talk with
course.
me. Great.
It's really lovely, and I just know that our communities are going to enjoy seeing who you are behind the books. Thank you,
Well, I hope that's true. Thank you.
Will.